It's great. But today what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about knives, swords, and daggers. Because September 1st, the new rules apply, the new laws apply about carrying knives. And so I wanted to go over some things like how do they apply to knives, like they do to handguns, signage, talking about different types of blades, and anything that you feel that is pertinent to this conversation. So Ross, take it away.
I like your last question. I didn't even look at that. Maybe I should have been more inquisitive as far as the notice provisions, although I do have some notice issues that I wanted to bring up. So if you guys don't know, House Bill 1935 was one of those laws that was trying to be put into effect. There were a lot of lobbyists trying to push for this, and it wasn't just from the lobbyist standpoint. There was a big social push, especially within the legislature, as far as the gun control was heading. And so we would have already had the new knife law into effect, but then I think the day before that it was about to be signed, the UT stabbing incident happened and kind of set this back. And so it made a lot of people really question. I think maybe there may have been some more limitations because of what happened at the UT campus, but as far as it is right now, I think that does put forth a more fair result in many cases. So what it does is 4601 defines what, prohibited weapons. It defines illegal knives, and it is talking about specific things like what we talked about. What is the Bowie knife, the switchblade knife, the any knife that's over 5.5 inches and meets one of those criteria. Anything that we had another one. What are those? Like they're darts almost. We were talking about them. But there's a list. There's a list of knives. There's a list of knives. Yeah, daggers. There's a list of knives on there. But now we don't have to worry about it. It's very simple. If it's over,
we saved a tree. We don't have to write all that stuff on a piece of paper.
Exactly. We don't have to do acronyms again that were terrible. So so we have now just if it's over 5.5 inches, then it is a location restricted knife. It's not an illegal knife, right? It is location restricted. So if you got a Bowie knife, you got a machete, you got any one of these things, it's not an illegal knife. It is a legal knife, but it may be location restricted. Okay, and so that is what the law does. And so, really, it used to be a crime, just like a handgun, to carry it when you're not on your own premises or when you weren't en route or in your motor vehicle. Okay, but now, the only time, generally, that it is illegal to carry a knife that's over 5.5 inches is if you're a minor. If you're a minor and you're not on premises that you control, you're not en route or in your motor vehicle, right, and you're not supervised by a parent or a guardian.
It sounds like license to carry laws.
It's even better from that standpoint.
Okay.
You don't need a license to carry these things. You don't have to go through a big permitting process, and you would be able to carry these probably. I guess openly, from what it looks like to me, unless you fall within one of these places that are prohibited.
So I could basically wear two samurai swords crisscrossed on my back, walk downtown, and not have an issue unless it's a location restricted area.
That's the way I'm reading it. I mean, but I don't know that I necessarily am advocating to do that. But I'm sure you still have public disorder issues, and yeah, I mean, if it's over 5.5 inches, right, then it is a location restricted knife, and you can't go into these locations. You can't go into any premises that is licensed to or permitted or licensed to sell alcohol. This is not if the business derives 51% or more of its income from the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption. You also cannot go to the premises of a high school, collegiate, or professional sporting event or interscholastic event unless you are a participant in that event and the knife is going to be used in that event.
See, this is paralleling license.
It does. But this definitely does not have as many restrictions. Mm-hmm. And like I said, you don't need a license.
And let me make a comment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to become part of the show, ask Attorney Benton here some questions or give me some positive comments, and you can give all the negative ones to Trey. You can call us here at 254-697-6633, 254-697-6633. Go ahead. What do you got?
Now, is that just knives and swords and things like that, or is that any blade, like some of these real fanciful things that they make, or like an axe or hatchet
So,
or whatnot.
Walking Dead, he carries a hatchet. So how does that work?
So if it's over 5.5 inches long, and I would say the blade portion, right, you probably can have, a situation where you could have been in trouble. But again, that you would have had a problem if you're working at a place with the axe that you're supposed to be working, or having it in your car that would meet the definition for being an agent, right, of the owner, right, which would be make you in control of the premises, right, or it would have made you in your car carrying the weapon. Now, if you're chasing zombies out in the middle of the street, then you're going to probably have another problem with civil commitment issues for mental and emotional problems versus criminal law.
Well, what about spears?
Man, you guys are just laying it on me today. So I would say that you could still fall into the course of a prohibited weapon, but I don't think that spears fall into a prohibited weapon. I would think that I don't know the federal law on that topic.
I'm kind of messing with you here. Let's get back into track notes.
But this is what the law says right now as far as knives are concerned, and we're talking about knives being any kind of blade that is over 5.5 inches as being a location restricted knife. And so if you're asking me all these questions, all I can tell you is, hey, you can carry it as long as it's not within one of those restricted locations.
Well, you know what it is? I've been going over this, and I look at it in the black and white version, but then when we start talking like this, I come up with these scenarios that could potentially happen in real life. For example, can I carry that knife concealed?
Oh, yeah. Why not?
I don't know. Because things that are black and white in the law book doesn't seem to apply when you go to the courtroom. So.
Yeah, this doesn't talk about concealed or not concealed. So you can just carry the knife, period.
Okay. Well,
And so
good.
you could walk down there. I'm gonna go buy you some Jerry Spence type outfit. Looks like was it Davy Crockett? Now, and you can have your Bowie knife hanging with your pistol with the cherry colored
My
wood
pants are gonna
grips,
fall down. I got so much weight on me.
and your license to carry badge.
Matt
We
and
got
his skunk skin cap.
Yeah, that's it. I'll stick with my digital cap here.
There is a couple other places, and it is kind of parallel too, but not as many places like the amusement park, the churches, the schools. You cannot go into the schools. It's the same law that we've already talked about. That applies to the regular illegal knives to begin with, but now it's called a location restricted knife because all knives are legal, right? But there is location restrictions. And so the one thing I was going to point out, and I don't know about the notice provisions. I didn't see any when I was going back through the bill, and I didn't see any on the new laws coming up. But I really wasn't looking for that. But I was curious as to the notice provision. And you see, I was kind of a little ambiguous about the license or permitted to sell alcohol, and that is because in the 46.3 it says on the premises of a business that has a permit or license issued under several different chapters of the Alcoholic Beverage Code, right, that derives 51% or more for on-premises consumption. Well, the another location within the code and some other cases that I have read and some other situations that I have come across have said that the premises, it was unlawful carry for it to be on premises, a licensed or permitted premises that sells or services for alcohol, and that is in the I believe it's in 46.2, which is just right before.
Recap that for me. Say that again.
So in 46.2 it has a different definition of premises, right? And then 46.3 has a different definition of premises, and in 46.35 there's a different definition of premises, and in the Alcoholic and Beverage Code there's a different definition of premises, right? And so we have I have come across these cases. And there's at least 3 that I've come across. Cummings and Terry are the 2 major ones. And you're arguing back and forth. You have these courts, one saying, no, it's the Alcoholic Beverage Code provision of premises that's going to apply. And it's going to be, or this other case talking about, no, it's this definition that applies, which is another thing, which would be one of those code sections that has nothing to do with alcohol. So it was a defense. Premises was a defense. If you're on your own premises, you can carry a handgun. Mm-hmm. That's what that provision was talking about. Well, they were saying premises then included anything that you could possibly be inside your control. And that presents a problem, because what if you have a bar owner that lives in his bar, and you have somebody that walks by and happens to traverse across his yard with a knife or with a handgun, period. Doesn't matter, either one. And they're traversing across the yard. Are they now on a carrying on property that's licensed? Which one is the premises? Is it inside the bar? Is it on the front porch, or is it the yard? Because each one of them would give you a different interpretation.
I would assume these problems come up because I'll give you an example. You know, we have the right to carry out in the open, concealed. You can carry a long gun, not a problem. But if you're going to be foolish about it and start causing people to raise
Like
their
we're
eyebrow,
2 samurai swords.
exactly, exactly. Yes, you can do it, but the culture, the people are not prepared for this at the moment. Or somebody's going to freak out looking out their kitchen window and seeing a guy hiking with his son with an AR-15. Is going to be saying, I just think it's kind of odd that there's somebody walking down the street with a samurai sword.
Watch Red Dawn too much.
And it's like they're totally in the right, but because people can't handle it because they're watching mainstream media and their brains are mush and they just can't figure out life in general, they're going to call the cops and you're going to have this hassle. You're going to have a CJ Grisham on the sword side of things. And you're going to go, I'm telling you, somebody's going to get busted for carrying a sword and it's going to be a CJ Grisham repeat.
And the difference between a sword and a gun? A sword is always ready to go. You know, sometimes you got a loaded gun.
Well, you got to take it out of its scabbard, I guess.
Well, is it in a scabbard?
Sheath? Scabbard?
Scabbard.
A scabbard? Okay.
We're getting technical here. The bottom line is this.
You ever seen those guys pull it out of that scabbard, man?
What I was trying to get at, though, is this. If we're going to be dramatic about it, what you're talking about, the confusion in these laws and premises, is probably going to become more prominent. If somebody's carrying a basic 5.5-inch knife or a hunting knife that goes up to 7, 8, 9 inches and it's on their side, and you're controlling yourself in a professional manner, you're not threatening, you're not doing anything, nothing's probably going to happen. I'm just saying all this confusion with these premises and the potential for you getting a legal problem is because you may be extravagantly trying to show off these beautiful knives, swords, daggers, or spears, and somebody's not going to get it and they're going to cause you a hassle. Would that be a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Okay,
man.
Did you know I have a whole family of attorneys?
Yeah, you told me. I guess you can't choose your family.
It's in my blood, dude. Okay. All right, keep going. 254-697-6633. Give us a call, give us a comment, make a statement, whatever you want. We'll see if we can get it.
I will answer the spear question. So the spear was listed, which I thought the spear was listed. Okay, and sword was listed. I thought it was listed, and those are now crossed out. Right, and so those will be included in this. So yes, I guess you could possibly
my son will
carry your
enjoy
spear.
All right, what else we got?
Well, that's it. I wanted to comment on the New York thing. I have a couple buddies in New York, and in my opinion, I'm looking at this, and knowing New York, it's just a money grab. It's just a money grab.
It's mafia up there, man. Total mafia.
And so I had buddies, and they're reasonably law-abiding citizens now. In college days, that was questionable, but at this point in time, they're very successful people and they're very responsible. And this was a older woman here who obviously took responsible steps to try to make sure she was following the law. She was trying to do everything she could. Even this other guy was ridiculous. Nobody would know that clip, that magazine by itself, was illegal without anything else. And by the district attorney's own terms, it doesn't make sense why that was illegal because it wasn't loaded. And so when I'm looking at this, though, and remember the stories that my buddies tell me that one guy said, one of my friends said he had been arrested 3 times for DWI up there. I said, dude, you've been arrested 3 times? He's like, no, dude, this happens all the time up there. It's like I paid like $10,000, and then it was just dismissed. All 3 of them. I don't have one DWI on my record. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, so they were just getting you because they knew you were going to pay it out. You were from out of state, and they got your money.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm looking at this. And I'm going, yeah, $15,000 to the lawyers. If there was that, there was a lot more going to the state.
Almost every state, if not all of them, are rackets. I'll tell you why. I'm driving across country in a car that's got manufactured tinted windows. And I go through the state of Georgia, and the cop pulls me over and says, I noticed your windows were a little dark. He puts this thing on the window, and it says, you see, the light's not coming through it the way it's supposed to. We could fine you. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, man. They got to pay their cops and all this kind of stuff, so they're racking in this money from all different sources. It's a racket.
Yeah, they weren't. I don't ever see them really probably trying to go after that slave like that. I mean, they were just hoping to get some money out of it, and they did. And then they wrote an article, and hey, they're just letting you know we're going to keep doing it.
Didn't you have another? Was there something else you want to talk about case wise, or we're not going that way?
Yeah. I'm not going that way
Okay.
yet. We may bring that up later. We have some interesting real life stories that we may get to at some point. But
Okay, so September 1st, the new laws for knives come out, and you said, well, every 2 years they come up with the new laws, and things take effect every 2 years.
yeah, no kidding.
So be prepared. In the next 2 years, a lot of other things are going to come up. But people are saying, "Oh my gosh, knives are going to be on the street. All mayhem's going to happen." But I'll tell you what, man, you can do some serious damage with a knife. Have you
can.
ever seen some injuries with knives?
Yes.
It's incredible. I got pictures that I show in my license to carry classes of a police officer sitting in an emergency room, and he's got slashes. The guy carved him up, and he was this scumbag who knifed this guy was trying to make a point. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to cut you up. He cut him all in the spots where it wasn't vital arteries or anything like that, but it was just a piece of meat cut. But I've seen other people demonstrating 1, 2, 3 quick strokes under the arm, in between the legs, and you bleed out in 20, 30 seconds. Whereas if you get shot with a bullet, a projectile, and it goes in you and it doesn't hit something vital, you're going to bleed and you're going to hurt and you may pass out and all this kind of stuff, but there's a chance you may not die. But whereas a knife, you get sliced on an artery, 20, 30 seconds later, man, you bleed out.
Yeah.
That'd be a question for Mark.
Yeah, we got some special guest Mark Boyer coming on. Maybe he can give us a couple of things about knives.
And remember, the knife is definitely a deadly weapon. So it is a deadly weapon because it's. Remember, we talked about it's either a firearm or something that the way that it's constructed, right, is to cause death or serious bodily injury, or in the way that it is used, cause death or serious bodily injury. And a knife falls definitely within the second two, either one of them. I mean, the knife is for cutting. The knife is for slashing. Right? The knife was made to kill things, to defend yourself, to slice meat. And, I mean, all that stuff would be serious bodily injury. And so I think anytime you would be carrying a knife, just remember that you would be invoking the deadly weapon provisions, which are enhancements to everything.
Do you
right?
have
in any situation?
Do you have the law handy to read? Because what I'd like to do is maybe if it's not too long, take a paragraph or two to read it, specifically what it says, and then list what was contraband before. Again, I know we've already done it, but people are going to, all this happens all the time. Can I carry this? Or can I do this after we just explained it? So let's do it one more time. Let's read what it says starting September 1st, and then what was in there that you couldn't carry.
There are several different laws, though, within this bill, so it's not like we can just read one law to say what it is. But it's.
Well, we got a few minutes. See what you can do.
It's several. So under the old law, okay, it was 4601. Okay, and 6 says illegal knife means a knife with a blade over 5 1/2 inches, hand instrument designed to cut or stab another by being thrown, a dagger, including but not limited to a dirk, stiletto, or poniard.
Now, dirk, that's just a.
We talked, the little
like a rod, right? Just a poker.
Yeah, and the Bowie knife, the sword, and the spear. Okay, those fall in to what was or still is until September 1st illegal knives. Okay, after this point, the House Bill 1935 changed this by simply saying that any knives over 5 1/2 inches, anything that would have fallen within the definition of an illegal knife, now is not illegal. It is legal, but it is a location restricted knife, to mean that you cannot take a knife that is over 5 1/2 inches. Okay.
I got a quick question. This is just one of those things that fall into, oh, really? That too? Machete. Very utilitarian item. That's considered a knife, even though it's called a machete. That
Yes.
falls under this as well.
Yes.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Well, I would think your opinion would be correct.
I mean, and we've talked about this. The guys were like, "Well, how can you?" And I've heard stories, and I've actually worked on a couple of cases where, the kid was working on, and we live in a more rural community than in most places, and so you have kids that have had machetes. I've worked on a case where a kid got in trouble because he had a machete in his car, and the drug dog supposedly hit on the car. I was like, no, this kid doesn't do any drugs. Well, there must have been some kind of dispute or something, and somebody ratted him, not ratted him, but set him up, because When we got there was nothing in his car that was remotely even close to what could be even medicine, much less illegal drugs. And they start searching his car because it's on school premises, and they're reaching under there and they're finding a machete, and then he gets suspended from school and never been in trouble in his life. So, I mean, you have situations like that, and you're like, man, how can that be? And there's more to it in a case like that, but I think this definitely makes it more fair. You definitely don't have, you're not in a situation where you're going to be committing as bad a felony. You're at least going to have it where it's a Class C. That's what this law also does. If you're a minor and you're possessing it on premises that aren't your own, not under the supervision of a parent or guardian, or and not en route or in your motor vehicle, then you're just going to be a Class C misdemeanor. And it's a Class C. It's a traffic ticket. And I think that even if you get charged with a higher felony, it's going to give you the ability to knock it down in a possible negotiation with the state. So,
well, that was perfect timing, Ross, because we're coming to our hard break now. I'll tell you what, this is a great conversation. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you real quick.
Again, my primary office location is here in Cameron. It's 105 East Main Street. That's 105 East Main Street. Big milk cow on the side. Can't miss it. My email is Benton, my name, BENTON, @watson.legal. My phone number is 254-605-4140. Thank you, guys.
It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure for me to be here, too.
See you on the other side, ladies and gentlemen.
Very good, right?